So I'm going to give you, and I'm going to ask the office to post my email, and it's easy to remember. Send your questions to my email before Ramadan and every night in Ramadan, and we'll take those questions and answer them the night after, inshallah, or the same night. So the email is imam, I-M-A-M, at hijrah, HIJRAH.org. It's easy, right? Imam at hijrah.org. Send your questions. Just mark the question subject title paper as question, and make the question as brief and concise as possible. A question that has a story behind it is not a question. A question, my mom traveled and she met somebody, and on her way this and this happened, and then finally we get to the question, is not a question. So a question that requires a story, keep it for private meeting. If you meet me personally, you can ask those questions. But a question is something that starts with a question word. Why, when, how, anything that starts with a question, right? When, what, all of these are questions, okay? Now I am ready to take your questions about this lecture, about the fasting. Yes. Yeah, that is a good question. He's saying, if I travel across different time zones, when do I start my fasting and when do I break my fasting? Well, if you are on the travel day, right, you have a license to break your fast that day because you are on travel. Irrespective of how long is your trip, okay? But a travel is not from Fairfax to Falls Church. That's not travel. A travel is when people normally would say he is on travel, like going to Chicago, going to even Baltimore, going to Banha, Tanta, Alexandria, Egypt, right? But short daily trips that we take to work is not travel, because that's where you live, that's where you work, right? But trips out of town is what travel is about. So if you are traveling out of town, whether east or west, and you're going out of town, when you leave the town, you apply the travel conditions. You understand? So I am traveling at 8 o'clock in the morning, taking the train from the train station to New York. Up until the train leaves Washington, I'm still in town. If the train is cancelled, if my flight is cancelled, I'm still in town. Why should I be breaking my fast? But once the train leaves Washington, gets to Baltimore, I am already out of my town. I can't break my fast. So, because my intention for fasting, as I mentioned, has to be solidly made the night before the fasting. The only thing that makes you a traveler is getting out of the town where you live. Once you're out of the town, then your license applies. Before you leave the town, you are required to fast. Because if the travel gets cancelled, what do? You lose the day? It's not, let's talk about the distance and the travel. The reason there are several ahadith and several fiqh opinion about how far you go that counts as a travel is because there are ahadith about related to the Prophet ﷺ in which he broke the fast or acted as a traveler when he traveled that much. So in some hadith it is this, how many farsakh, how many yards, how many this, how many that. The conclusion of all of this is when you leave the boundaries of the town or the city in which you live. then you are on travel. Okay? This gets all opinion together. Your town may take you 1 hour to get out of town. If you get stuck in traffic in Washington, to get to Baltimore, it doesn't count. You are still in town. Okay. Excuse me, huh? I said you break the fast as soon as you leave the town parameters. Yes, yes, he goes back to the original question. If I continue to fast, when do I break my fast? You break your fast where you are, according to your local time. If you decided to keep fasting until you get to Honolulu, then you will fast more than about 30 hours. Right? But in the process, you will get to the next day because there's a daytime line that will come in the middle. So let us say if you travel from the Middle East all the way to the US, it takes you about 20 hours of travel from leaving home, taking the cab, going to the airport and all of this and the processing. It adds up to about 20 hours to come to New York or Chicago or LA or Washington, right? And this is much longer than a normal fasting day. So my recommendation is break the fast that day. Likewise, if you're going from here east, which normally it doesn't happen in the morning. You know, eastbound flights normally goes at night, right? So you leave at night and in a couple of hours from your flight, so if you leave New York, let us say 10 o'clock, by 2 a.m. in New York, you have traveled 2 hours, you will see the daylight coming, right? And if you start there until you get to your town in the Middle East, for example, you will land there about maybe mid-afternoon or late afternoon, right? Or in the evening. But you will have only traveled about 8 hours or 10 hours. And the day is actually 16 hours. So again, on the day of your travel, across time lines, time zones, from east to west or from west to east, break the fast both ways. Okay? Do not fast either way. Yes. Yeah, the question is, should we keep eating in suhoor time until the adhan of Fajr is finished, or should we stop when the adhan starts? You should stop when the adhan starts. Preferably, you should plan to stop before the adhan starts. Yes. He's asking, in previous years, Dar al-Hijrah has its local system of fasting, and some people in Dar al-Hijrah area, they fasted with, let us say, any country in the Middle East. That's the foundation of your question, right? So what is the question? So the question is, should people follow Dar al-Hijrah who live in this area, or do they have a permission or license to fast with any other country? Well, the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ answers this question. The Prophet ﷺ says, صَوْمُكُمْ يَوْمَ تَصُومُونَ. Your day of fasting is the day when you all together fast, emphasizing the communal aspect of deciding and fasting together. وَفِطْرُكُمْ يَوْمَ تُفْطِرُونَ. Your breaking of the fast day, which is the day of Eid, is the day when you all together break the fast. Again, emphasizing the community aspect of that activity. It is a communal activity for everybody to be part of it. You don't want your children to be fighting with their Muslim neighbors. No, this is the Eid day. No. Yesterday was the Eid day. You missed it. You want everybody to join hands, celebrate together, fast together, and break the fast together. This is the text of the hadith. Okay? What is defined as the last few days of Sha'ban? It is the last few days of Sha'ban. Few could be 3, could be 5, could be 7. Yes, I'm giving you the answer. So you decide. Huh? Siyam al-Wusal? Yeah, Siyam al-Wusal is when somebody says, I will fast every day of my life and I will never break the fast any day. That is prohibited. I would not do this at the end of the month. You could do before whatever you want. Yes. Yes. Okay. So he's asking, somebody has diabetes and his sugar is high and he's not going to fast. What to do about the fidya and when to pay the fidya? Well, first of all, fasting is the best treatment for diabetes. The sugar is high means you have more than your body needs, not less. The danger is if your sugar got low. That's the danger. Then you have to take something to give your body the sugar it needs. But being high does not require food because food makes your sugar even higher. Sugar fluctuates based on several factors. Food intake, sugar intake in particular, carb intake, exercise and activity, and medication that you take. So insulin lowers your sugar. Food raises your sugar. Sugar raises your sugar level in your blood. So if you know your pattern, I can talk with you privately about this because I'm also diabetic. So I'm not talking about a theory. It's a lifestyle. Diabetes is a lifestyle condition that everybody needs to work on. But I can talk to you privately on how to manage this if there is anything. But if the question that make up your mind between you and your doctor, you want to handle this privately, that's no problem. If you decided that you will break the fast one day or 10 or the whole month, then ask yourself, could I fast some other days? For example, in the winter, when the day is shorter, can you make up those days in the winter? Maybe you could. So you don't have to pay fidya for the whole month. So if you could work around your condition, you definitely could find ways to make up much of the days and then pay the fidya for the rest. The question about do you have to make it in Ramadan or do you have to make it day by day, it's a personal management. The deen doesn't give you a specific calendar when to do it. It's like making up a day. Do you make it right after in Shawwal or do you make it in Dhul Qa'dah or Dhul Hijjah? As I said, making up the fast can happen anytime between the two Ramadans. Every day for a day. Yes. البخاخة بتاع الأزمة لا تفطر. The asthma spray, it does not break your fast. Zakat al-Fitr. Zakat al-Fitr, you pay it. Zakat al-Fitr, you pay it before the Eid unless you know somebody specifically who qualifies for the zakah and you want to give it to him and the night before the Eid, that will be fine. If you want to pay it to Dar al-Hijrah, we would like to receive it early because we get applications from hundreds of people and we get the zakah from people all throughout Ramadan and we calculate how much we are going to distribute and it takes time to issue the checks, type the checks, enter the data in the computer and prepare the ledger to pay them. إذا كانوا هم فقراء خالص لدرجة احتياجهم لزكاة الفطر ده معناه لازم تساعدهم طول السنة. مش بس زكاة الفطر، بقول لك لو هم بدرجة الفقر انه يوم العيد لا يجدوا طعام، لانه اللي بيستحق زكاة الفطر بيبقى بناء على حديث الرسول عليه الصلاة والسلام، قال اغنوهم عن السؤال في هذا اليوم. يعني الفقير المدقع الذي لا يجد ما يطعم نفسه وأهله وأولاده يوم العيد لا نتركه يشحذ begging people on the day of عيد. اغنوهم عن السؤال. فأي مستحق لزكاة الفطر الأولى أنه مستحق الصدقة العادية والزكاة العادية طول السنة، فهذا لا تغني عنه صدقة زكاة الفطر اللي جاية من أمريكا عشان تروح له بلد، وهذا إهدار لحق الفقير. بارك الله فيك. طيب جزاكم الله خيرا. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك، نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت، نستغفرك ونتوب إليك.